Welcome, Tariq. Thanks for coming in today.
Always a pleasure, Sammy.
Nice for us to jump into this episode. So, just for the viewers out there, so welcome to the Anything Everything podcast, hosted by myself, Sami Dandashi, and Tariq Bushara, where we discuss insightful content, information-backed data, as much as we can, and then drawing on our own personal experiences and views in a way that can be beneficial to others.
Yeah, word of warning, there are opinions. We are going to have opinions here. So if someone doesn't agree with our opinions, that's totally fine. But yeah, just a word of warning.
Don't hold us to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much.
Yeah. Thanks for that intro. Today's topic is going to be about confidence. So are you, viewer, do you consider yourself a confident person? What is confidence? Like how would we define confidence? Do confident people even think that they're confident? Or is confidence much more intrinsic and not something that you're aware about? Also, if you're not confident as a person and you know that you're someone who's insecure in a lot of situations, is there a way you can actually build that confidence? So there are a lot of self-help books out there that kind of try to teach people how to be confident and how to build their own confidence. Do they actually work? Are they scalable in a way where they're not just a quick injection of serotonin to make you feel good about yourself, and instead they actually teach you methods and strategies to build your confidence? So those are all kind of like questions that we're going to explore today, as well as a few others, but I'm really, really excited to dive in.
Yes, likewise. Thank you for the questions. Definitely we're going to dive into some of these. Probably, something around, the phrase, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
So
Yeah.
maybe let's start there.
Go ahead. What you got?
So with fake it till you make it, it's a term or a phrase that is used for people to, I want to say it's a short-term like bandage for when you're not confident in a situation. And we're being very general now. We'll dive into a few examples, things like the scariest things I feel. Maybe we can, tailor our example towards, things like that, like public speaking,
Right.
presenting in front of a crowd, taking ownership of a situation in a big group.
Walking up to a attractive person
Absolutely.
that you want to talk to and try to, that's one
absolutely.
of the most intimidating things someone can do, I think, until you're used to it. But yeah.
No, definitely. So fake it till you make it. Personally, I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. I can see its merits in the short term for someone who needs that push, but you're better off working on what I like to call like enablers to confidence.
Okay.
And I feel like confidence is more of a thing that you gain as a result of a number of actions.
Okay, let's step back for a second. What is confidence? How do you define confidence?
So I define confidence as a place that you arrive at rather than just a thing. Because with fake it till you make it, it seems like it's just a button that you can turn on and turn off. I reject that view. I see it as confidence is the result of, or it's a feeling that's the result of preparation, clear communication, and like, practice, and then not caring, or to put it in a different way, lack of fuckery.
Right.
You need, I feel, a healthy dose of that, but all three combined, and this is very like situational, let's say for a presentation, how you get confident is you have to know the material. You
Right.
have to know what you're talking about, like your own name.
Yeah.
That's your preparation. Then it's about how you say it. You can know it, but how you say it, how you convey the message is a big aspect of your confidence.
Right.
And then thirdly, you have to have a bit of that, I don't care how it's going to go, healthy wise.
Yeah.
If it's for a client and you're completely nonchalant, then it's going to show. But you need that healthy balance for the third one of, I really don't care too much, so it doesn't affect me, the outcome.
I like that. Yeah. I would say confidence is believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge part of it. But also another big part of it is knowing your limits. So not just believing in yourself, but
Okay.
understanding what your limitations are.
Amazing.
So once you have both of these aspects, I feel like that just by itself makes you a confident person. I think it could be summarized into this really simplistic way of you believe in yourself in a specific situation. That confidence can have different types, and we can get into that. But if you believe in yourself and you understand your limitations in that situation and you're aware of it, then you're confident in that specific aspect. And speaking of fake it till you make it, I wanna jump into an example with a psychologist called Albert Ellis. Have you heard of him?
No.
So Albert Ellis is one of the founding fathers of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is like huge in the psych world. He initially had something called REBT, which became CBT later, but that's what he founded and what he added to it. So he had very big problems approaching women when he was young, when he was 19. So what he did is he challenged himself to talk to 100 women every day, random women at a park, the New York Botanical Gardens.
Okay.
So the first 100 that he talked to, and it might be 100, it might be 130, I can't remember the exact number. But the first 100 women he talked to, about 70% of them walked away from him as soon as he sat down and started talking. And the rest engaged with him, and he was able to get one date out of the 100. The second time he tried it, he was able to get 3 or 4 dates. And then after he practiced it for tens of times, he started scoring a really extremely high date ratio from the women that he talked to. So initially what he did was he faked it. Like he knew he didn't have the confidence. He sat down, he tried talking to them. It didn't work out. They walked away, or they just kind of engaged with him a little bit, and then the conversation ended there. But I think what happened is he got used to the rejection aspect, which is built in to humans. Like, we don't like rejection, and it's a very primal instinct. And I believe it's because back when we were cavemen, if you were rejected by like your society, you're probably going to die. You need the shelter of the community you're in. So any rejection means you're an outcast, means you're much more in danger. So a big part of this confidence aspect when it comes to talking to women is the fear of rejection. And it doesn't apply just to talking to women or to men or whoever you want to talk to. It also applies to public speaking and all types of confidence. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, that means you're probably going to die. And we've developed this instinct over hundreds of thousands of years, depending on, the science that you want to believe, which led us here. Right now, rejection isn't going to kill us. Back then it was. But this fear we have impacts our confidence. So what happened with him is he realized, his brain, after a lot of practice, realized that this rejection isn't really affecting him negatively, physically, in any way. So he got used to it, which gave him belief in himself that he can actually do it. And he understood, based on how he would talk to women, the limitations that he had, and he knew how to work around them, which made him much more successful at it. And ultimately, he became a very confident man in talking to women.
I'd add to that I'm sure there's an aspect of, because you're getting feedback. It's not the case of just getting the confidence to talk to them, because you'll build that, and I agree with you. But I think maybe what is also part of it is that, what are you saying? You can be confident, but what are you saying to get the date?
Yeah.
To get the girl to listen to you and say, okay, this guy has something interesting to say. You're getting feedback. So when a woman rejects you for lack of confidence, that's you knocking on the door, and then people go like, no, I don't want to buy what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
But then if they open the door and you walk in, it's about, how do I stay in the room with what you say? So I feel like there's maybe 2 or could be more aspects to it, is that he must have learned, by doing more and more. Not just the confidence is like the first step, but then he got it out of the way quickly. But then to go forward and have a long-term relationship, it's about what you're going to say and to get the next date and the next date. So I feel like he was maybe lacking in that regard as well, right? That you can get the confidence to talk to a girl, and I feel like it's touching on the lack of fuckery that I brought up. That you need to not care essentially about the rejection. Once you're past that, you have to be an interesting person to the other person, right? You have to say something good. But bringing it back to fake it till you make it, I see how, again, it's contextual.
So yeah, he did fake it.
He did,
and
yeah.
then ultimately he made it. And he faked it, but he faked it with intention. So he intentionally knew what he was doing while he was faking it. Ultimately, he made it. I mean, there's another fake it till you make it example that I'll give, but it's much more personal.
Yeah.
And it's in my working life. So when I started work, I was in customer support, and then I wanted to get into product, to become like a product manager. And what I did was I kind of faked being a product manager by doing product things and just really involving myself there. And in the end, I managed to do it. So I got into product like about a year after, and it worked. So I think I'm not sure. I already had the confidence that I could make it. That's the thing. So fake it till you make it. But I already had the confidence that I can actually make it. So I don't know if fake it till you make it applies to actually building confidence, or do you have to be confident initially to do fake it till you make it? Maybe it works more that way.
It's a good question. I mean, yeah, you're sort of like, opening it up a bit more. Like,
so you believe in yourself. So if you're gonna fake,
it comes back to your definition. In a way,
yeah.
So,
If you wanna be good at something and you wanna fake it till you make it, don't you need to be confident that you can get there?
True. And on your point around like work experience, it's kind of a similar thing even in our industry, where to move up to the next level, you have to demonstrate that you're already there before you get it. Like, if you want to move, let's say you want to move, your promotion is from like level 2 to level 3, just, for instance, you have to demonstrate that you're at level 3, even when you're not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it ties into that in a way. But I like your definition around, and I feel like I have a similar sort of definition around believe in yourself and then knowing your limitations.
Yeah.
So when you say believe in yourself, how do you, like, let's double click on that a bit.
Okay.
Believe in what about yourself? What aspects?
So when I say I believe in myself, I mean that I understand my abilities, and I understand that I am someone who's just as capable as anyone else to do a specific thing. And I understand that if I set my mind to something and I try hard enough, I can usually get where I want to get.
Nice. So it's an accurate assessment of your own abilities, your own experience.
Yeah. So it does tie into the limitations part. Believing in myself ties into knowing my limitations, because I feel like if you believe in yourself and you think you're limitless, that means you're narcissistic, probably arrogant, and you're delusional, and it becomes dangerous. It becomes overconfidence, which we can talk about later. But yeah.
Okay, so believing in yourself. I like this around believing in yourself, because let's look at it from the point that let's assume this person hypothetically has experience, but he either goes down one path where he believes in himself or another path he doesn't. So is that imposter syndrome?
So I would say if someone does not believe in themselves, then depending on what they're doing, they could be a victim of imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's very common nowadays. I feel like it's a phrase that's, it's kind of trendy. And maybe it ties in a little bit to our...
It definitely does.
Right. So,
and I'll tell you, I experience it. Not every day, but sometimes I just think about what I've done and where I am. And I feel like, do I actually deserve this? There are a lot of people that aren't in my position, but they might be more capable. So why is it me? Those kind of questions always spring to mind, but it's kind of, I think there's a bit of a balance, and it depends on the mood someone's in. But imposter syndrome is a byproduct of insecurity, which comes from a lack of confidence. And usually when I feel imposter syndrome, I am not feeling confident. It's pretty much the opposite, in my view.
Okay. Yeah. So it's I mean, related to
Not believing in yourself.
And therefore not assessing your capabilities well.
Exactly.
Okay. And then on the limitations, that's about sort of like knowing what you don't know.
Yes.
In a way.
Very important.
Which is it's a bit frightening. I think it's scary for people just not knowing.
I agree. And that's why narcissism, people who are narcissistic sometimes get a lot of public attention. It's because they fill that hole where people are scared of not knowing what they don't know.
Okay.
But keep going. Okay. We can discuss that later.
No, nice one. Good segue.
Yeah.
So then it's a reaction to not handling uncertainty or lack of knowledge well. Okay. So once you have that ability to go like, I'm confident in what I know, and I'm also confident that I'm fine, I'm comfortable that I don't know some things here.
Exactly.
And once you, again, I feel it comes back to that, just your accurate reflection on your own experience. In a way, you could cast aside the imposter, especially when maybe it comes out, and I feel like the point of not assessing your capabilities well is a very prevalent point, because the world is changing, our skills are evolving all the time. You may be good at something and you don't have a good assessment of your own capabilities.
Yeah.
It's only when you change position, location, that you kind of go like, okay, now I know that what I took for granted is actually very useful, very beneficial in this area.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit general, but I feel like that's kind of how it is.
Yeah. It's so I think that it ties, so believing in yourself and knowing your own limitations are part of the same coin. They're just two different ways of looking at it, because
so it's like it could be
if
a
you
spectrum
want to,
that you're balancing,
Yeah, if you want to honestly believe in yourself and not lie to yourself, because you can believe in yourself while lying to yourself,
100%.
which is what arrogant people do. If you believe in yourself without lying to yourself, that part does have to include knowing your limitations. And then, there's some skills that you have and that you've built confidence in that are transferable to other areas that you find yourself confident in without really knowing that they were actually transferable, in fact. So, for example, if you're not a very social person, and then you put yourself in social situations and you start building your social skills and you become more confident socially, you might find that this confidence in your social skills made you much more confident in talking to people you're attracted to, made you much more confident when you have to go do a speech in public, and made you a lot more confident in other areas that you weren't confident at all in. And you're like, wow, okay. I built my social skills and now I could do all these things. I feel like I could do them much better. I definitely agree. And this kind of also goes into what types of confidence are there. So if you say you're confident, does that mean that do we usually tie confidence when we say that word to social confidence?
I mean, it's more general, but do you mean like domain confidence?
Like when you say this person is a confident person, isn't the first thing that springs to your mind that they're confident socially? Like when you talk to them?
True. Yeah, I think it's like goes without saying.
Yeah.
That's the first assumption or.
Exactly. But the question is that really what confidence is? Or could someone be confident in an area that does not involve social aspects at all, like not public speaking, not talking to other people, but they're very, very confident playing football?
True. I mean, I think it's because most of life is social, right? So where are the areas that you don't need social? Sports.
Engineering, mathematics, sports.
But you need confidence because you're working with people.
If you're an engineer that writes code, you don't really need to work with people. You can be very confident in your ability to write code. If you're a hacker, you really don't need to work with people. You can be very confident in your hacking abilities. And
hackers go alone.
And ask like Microsoft for a bounty of $200,000 when you get a 0-day bug.
You have to be confident when you're doing cybercrime, I guess.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of areas that involve confidence which don't necessarily tie into the social aspect, right?
But I feel like they're really limited. Like the mathematician writing code, ultimately the code is going to go to someone. Someone's going to have to go like, okay, you know what? I don't like this code, you know? And then his confidence would be like, you know what? This is what you get. This is what you're paying for.
Right.
So it comes down to like haggling, you know, and with haggling, there's a better confidence where you're able to, because there's always a give and take in any interaction, right? There's always sort of a winner and loser. I know it's a bit maybe harsh, but the reality of life is that in every engagement, every social interaction, at some level, there's someone that's getting his way. So
I don't know if I agree with that. It's much more give and take, I think.
Yeah, there's generally for life to go on and for like, you know, for us to have, you know, peaceful, you know, like engagement, it has to be a sort of balance. But in a case where like you're buying something, when you're buying, you have power, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. But I'm just going back to your point that like outside of social, and you talked about football. So you told me if in football you have the ability, but you're not confident, then you can't really play well.
No, you're confident in your ability to play football.
Okay.
You're not confident in your ability to do an interview after the match.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
True, but I feel like, I guess with some people because it's a public thing, right?
Yeah, so it's like confidence does not have to be. So
what doesn't have to be social.
Yeah,
Exactly
what I'm trying to say is a lot of people just define confidence as social confidence.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to put out the notion that there's confidence that is outside the social aspect of public speaking and talking to the opposite, like people you're attracted to.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I just feel like it's limited. It's not so, you know, because let's look at the player that's playing at the top level. He has to be a bit confident to be able to play because he knows that people are watching. You know, you have family that are like expecting, you know, a lot of things from you. So you have that confidence to play.
Yeah.
If you're not confident to talk,
that's different.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, fine.
Like a music composer that makes amazing music and they're very confident in their music. And if they're presenting their music, they're very, very confident. But then put them in a room with 6 other people, they don't know how to talk to them.
They don't know, yeah. Okay, so but I'd say that if you have the social confidence, that conversational confidence, public speaking confidence, it's a great add-on to whatever
I agree.
doing,
that's
right?
That's not what I'm trying to get at. All I'm saying is there are different types of confidence, and it isn't necessary that every type feeds into another. I think there's like there are types of confidence, but they're kind of separate.
Sometimes siloed.
Yeah.
I feel like it should like tie in more.
Because you can believe in yourself in certain areas, but really not believe in yourself in other areas.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But it brings up this point around transferability. Can you take confidence from one area to another? Can you convert it? Can you use...
I think it depends on if you built that confidence... if you built that confidence while in your mind you were actively knowing that what you're doing is building that confidence. So if you built confidence doing something because you were aware that you're actually trying to build your confidence, that is transferable. If you built your confidence doing something subconsciously, like you've been playing football since you were 6 years old, and therefore you're very confident doing that, then I don't think that is transferable. However, if you start playing football in your early 20s and you actively work on building the confidence that you have, then that part is transferable because now you kind of know how to build confidence. I think that it is transferable if you are aware of what you did in order to build the confidence in another situation. Whereas if you're not aware, like if you're, I guess, if you're used to being very social since you were a school kid, when you're a school kid, you're not really aware of how you become confident. You're just confident. It just happens. And then you stay confident. You're not going to really know how you got that confident. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like knowledge that you don't really know you have.
Yeah, you have to know the process consciously, I think, because if you reach there subconsciously, it might not be transferable. But if you reach there consciously, you would know how to transfer it to other areas.
Yeah, because then I'd assume that you're reflecting more on
Exactly.
how you obtain that or how
Reflection.
you
Yeah.
achieve. The reflection part is a big one.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, I think that you can build confidence. So how would you go about building confidence? Because you said, and I don't know if I mean, I guess I agree a little bit. There are parts that, but we don't have to talk about that more. But what I wanted to ask you is, how would you go about building your confidence? If there's something, is there something that you don't feel confident in? I know it's a personal question. Feel free not to answer it, but is there something that you want to build your confidence in?
Off the top of my mind, no, but I can look back and say that, for example, presentations and public speaking,
Right.
political, but just like, in groups, that was an area that I actively, as you said, consciously worked on.
How do you do that?
I worked on through preparation. So it starts off like, I have a story, I'll share this, of in university.
Yeah.
English course 2 or 3, maybe English 2 or 3, sophomore year, I had to present my essay in a room of 20 people.
Sure.
Not so intimidating now, but in the moment, extremely intimidating, complete a mess, like you're just a mess trying to present. I remember sort of like, shivering as I'm walking to the front of the class and just like, just like trying to read.
Knees weak, arms are heavy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the way. And just like, mumbling whatever I had written down. I don't remember what the essay was about. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is my memory, just playing tricks on me, that a few people just like laughed at me for that.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me for a bit.
Yeah, that's a little bit traumatic, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
in a way,
it
is. I know it's like we're kind of playing loose with the definition of trauma, but if something like that sticks with you, then it is kind of, it affected you deeply, emotionally.
At the time, yes, but it's about how long you keep that memory alive, right?
I mean, it stuck with you.
And then what to do with it. I mean, generally, a lot of my memories stick with me. Thankfully, it's a good thing. I like to. I have that benefit that I remember a lot of things.
Sure.
And
so how did you basically flip that to become confident?
I flipped it years and years later by just forcing yourself, number one, to be a bit more social. By like there's a thing where like people would go, okay, I want to talk to certain people, but they might not be interesting. So what I started doing more is, if you act interested, you might get interesting things back. You know what I mean? It's sort of like an inverted approach. But if your premise is, yeah, but I don't think this person is interesting, you've already shut all,
100%.
You've cut off, any, good outcome from that engagement. Everybody can teach you something. Everybody has something interesting to say. Some people, you have to work a bit harder with them.
Yeah.
But going back to the point, number one is, it's not about just me. Okay, I could have faked it, and just like read a few bullet points. But the preparation, I feel preparation is your number one, action, is that you have to know the material. Know the material really, really well, what you're going to talk about. Now, you're not going to read an entire essay out, but like the summary. And then practice the talking part. There's the material part, and then there's actually talking it out. There's listening to your voice, just as we're doing now on the podcast.
So like you stand in front of a mirror and you kind of recite it, try to put yourself in that situation.
100%. Record, recite, send it to people, ask them their views. Did you understand it? Did you not? Give me some pointers. Those are the first two sort of things you have to do. And then the third point, which goes back to my definition earlier, is you have to kind of not care. You need that ability. Maybe this is kind of a button that you kind of go like, you know what? I really don't care. I don't care about this person's view. Now, it's situational. It depends on, context. Like if I'm going into interview, I can't demonstrate, not caring so much. But you kind of need to, how they say in an interview, they need you as much as you need them. If you keep it that, oh, they need me and I'm going to panic and I'm going to worry and I'm afraid, they're going to sense that. It's going to come off.
Okay.
And going back to your point with, talking to, women or other people, certain people sense that your reluctance, they sense your inability to be confident or having confidence. So you have to work on all these three. You have to work on preparation. And in this case, we're talking about, presenting. Know the material, talk it out loud, hear your
Right.
voice, prepare in front of a mirror, record it if you can. And then thirdly,
Try not to care.
try not to care.
So I'm going to push back on the third point. Try not to care.
Okay.
I care a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't switch that off. The way I deal with it, and I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I'm just
Personally.
this is how I think, and the reason I don't think it has to tie into confidence. It could, but when I believe in myself, if I go into a situation believing that I'm going to do well, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to do well because I know my shit. If I go into a situation thinking that way, even if I do care about what the person in front of me thinks, I know I'm going to crush it. So it doesn't matter because I know they're going to look at me and be like, this person crushed it, no matter what the situation is. So this is my view on confidence. It's very internal. When you start externalizing it, it could aid in building your confidence, I guess. That's something that I haven't thought as much about. But when you externalize it, it no longer becomes something internal. So you're basing what other people think about you as part of the equation of your confidence. So you're saying that I don't care what they think about me. That ties back into the equation of me being confident in what I'm doing. I don't agree that they're necessarily related in that way.
Yeah.
It could make you more appear more confident, right? But does it really make you more confident if you don't care what the other person thinks, or does it just make you appear more confident because you don't care what they think? That's the question.
It's a good one. I mean, and again, it's hard to separate, the feeling of knowing your stuff, knowing that you're going to do well and not caring. I'm not saying don't care at all. And it's about levels.
Right.
Part of it, and I like the point of internal versus external. How I would push back is that it's very much a sort of fluid sort of equation. It's not entirely just, my, view, because when you're in a situation where you need somebody's feedback, you're caring a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not the case of me just suspending the care that I don't care at all, but it's about finding that perfect spot or that balance where I'm not caring enough.
You're not caring too much.
I'm not caring too much. And what too much is, it's that's hard to define.
I guess that I can agree with.
It's hard to define.
Yeah.
Because it's a spectrum or a ladder of, values that we can never reach.
Yeah,
it's just your own personal.
There's a related point that I want to touch on that you brought up in what you were saying. When you're confident socially and you're talking to someone, you automatically make them more confident.
I think that's definitely the case for when you're talking to women.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's even in social situations. Yeah. If you're making a new friend, if whatever, if you has anyone ever approached you and started talking to you, picked up a random subject and just talked to you confidently about it, someone you don't know? Has that happened before?
Can't remember now.
I remember a few situations where it did happen, and that if that person projected confidence, I was immediately confident talking to them. And I think that ties into the mirror neurons that we have in our heads, where we feel the confidence resonating from that person, which puts us at ease. And confident people, I feel put you at ease. If you're in a situation with someone who's acting really nervous, you're going to get nervous.
Rubs off on you.
Yeah, it does rub off on you. And I feel there are some certain foundations that you can build for yourself when it comes to social confidence. Is first, actively engage with keeping someone interested. Like you mentioned, it's important to keep them interested and to keep them feeling like you're super interested in what they're saying.
100%.
There are things that you do And it ties back into confidence, and we can tie it back in later. But there are things that you could do in social situations, like if you fidget nervously, if your body language isn't open, and body language is a whole different topic. If you're not laughing at their jokes, if your smile doesn't seem genuine, if you yawn while they're talking, that's probably like the worst thing you could do to someone.
Red flags, yeah.
Yeah, if they're talking to you and you just yawn, they're like, okay, like it immediately, my confidence talking to you is going to go down if you like yawn. Whereas the opposite, if you laugh at a joke that I said, or if you're in a social situation, you make a joke and everyone around you laughs, even if they're your close friends, it just boosts you up. It gives you that rush of confidence. It's so good. So if you're able to do that for people, it's going to reflect on you as well. If you're good at listening and making other people feel confident, you're going to be confident. And I feel like building those skills, if you don't have them innately, because some people know how to do these things, they have that ability. Other people need to build it. And I think anyone can build it if they set their minds to it and can become confident in a social aspect. They just need to practice it. And you mentioned that as well, practice. That's a core element for anything you want to become good at, including confidence. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because you touched on it and I wanted to expand on it a little bit.
No, definitely. I mean, when you think of it, and I really like this point about people, and I want to deep dive on what you said, that people can sense certain things.
Yeah.
Right? So body, just briefly on the body language side and reading people, I feel like, and I'm just going to throw this out there like as a hypothesis, that we give off a host or a spectrum of emotion.
Right.
In your body language, confidence being one of them.
Yeah.
Nervousness, fear. Do you feel that certain attributes are more noticeable, by people, or, like they pick up on more than others? Just putting it out there as a, theory, I feel like confidence maybe isn't one that people would, pick up as much. They do pick up on it, but they pick up on the negative stuff more. And why I'm saying that is that because it ties into our negativity bias, is that we notice negative things first. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is a bit primal, going back to, hunter-gatherers.
Yeah, we need to sense those.
Risk averse, right?
Yeah.
Loss aversion.
100%.
Everything around avoiding danger. Avoiding danger was ingrained in us, like coded in our design so that you can survive.
Yeah.
And nowadays, okay, we don't need that bias as much, that negativity bias, but we need to be conscious that your instinct is to witness the negative spectrum first. And that's why you said that if somebody approaches you and is a bit jittery and nervous, like, man, I'm getting a wrong vibe from this guy.
Yeah. So
but you're not so much like, I'm getting an amazing vibe from,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That ties back into, building the skills that you need in order to make other people feel confident when they're in front of you. And once you know how to do that, you're going to start building confidence. Because when you project, and it's a little bit of fake it till you make it, you're projecting things that are going to make people feel like you're interested in who they are and what they're saying, which at turn is going to put you at ease as well. And once you practice that dynamic, you're just going to become more confident. So,
but you're doing it consciously.
You're doing it consciously.
And maybe retrospectively, people might go like, you know what? When I think about it, that guy actually gives off a very confident approach. But in the moment, it's very like subconscious.
It's very feeling subconscious. Well. Yeah. And even later, you might not even think about that person being confident unless you want to consciously think about it. But it happens subconsciously. And that's the powerful part. If you're the person practicing it, it's going to be conscious in your head and you're going to understand the dynamics that are going on in the conversation, which ultimately will build your confidence and make that become something subconscious for you. Because you practice something over and over, the subconscious mind takes over and it starts doing it.
I really like this, and you just reminded me of something where there was this teacher in the UK doing like some sort of experiment around social interactions, and she clarified this sort of framework. She called it's 4 levels.
Yeah.
So at the very bottom, you have unconscious incompetence.
Yeah.
And then as you move up, so you go from that to conscious incompetence, and then
conscious competence,
And then-
unconscious competence.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
by
And
going
that's
through
how
the
you build your
stages-
confidence. That's exactly it.
yeah.
You need to reach the unconscious competence, and that's when you're like, okay, I reached the
Yes.
point where I'm
Yeah.
confident.
Now this is more social. It's more
It's
around
in
like-
the social aspect, but I
Yeah.
think it can also tie into other areas where you need to practice and build that until you're unconscious competent, whether it be
Yeah.
in sports, music, social.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where you become confident. That's a really nice one. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's,
So I'd like to touch on overconfidence and underconfidence before we wrap this up. I feel like if we tie it back into believing in yourself, underconfidence is basically when you don't believe in yourself, imposter syndrome, insecurity. That's underconfidence. You treat it by building your confidence, which is just what we talked about. But overconfidence, arrogance, narcissism, that is believing in yourself to a point where you're actually lying to yourself. So you're believing that you're capable of much more than what you're actually capable of. And that is dangerous because you can start taking risks, financial or otherwise, that you're not going to be able to complete. And it's going to put you in some pretty bad situations in life, ultimately. But I think something interesting that we can touch on with overconfidence is how people who are in the public eye that are overconfident can tend to amass a huge following, like a massive following. First person that comes to mind is Donald Trump. Other person that comes to mind is Kanye West.
Okay.
Kanye West lost his, like a lot of people say he lost his mind. Donald Trump, an obvious narcissist, at least he acts like one.
Textbook.
Yeah. And the thing is, it just, how many people just love Trump? Like I haven't seen a politician in the Western world, at least, who's amassed this kind of cult following. It's insane. And I think the overconfidence that he displays kind of casts a shadow over the insecurities of his followers. They look at that person and they're like, he's so confident. He knows exactly what he's talking about, even though he knows nothing about what he's saying. So they fill in that uncertainty that people have
He's an
within them.
outlet in that sense, yeah.
Exactly. So he plugs in that hole that people have where we're uncertain, we don't know about this, we're not sure what's going to happen. And they just love him because he's able to relieve that uncertainty for the people in front of them. So I feel like narcissism is about a lot of narcissism. Sometimes it's very negative, and usually it is negative to be narcissistic, but it can be very powerful. It could be a very powerful motivator. A lot of the cult leaders are very narcissistic people. When you look at cults, when you look at other like political things, a lot of them
Groups are, yeah.
yeah, a lot of the leaders, the top, even if you look at Lebanese politics, Sami and I are both from Lebanon. If you look at Lebanese politics, the leaders, narcissistic.
Yeah. But
And
I'm
their
trying to-
following's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to try and understand it and look into, okay, is it because you are a public figure that you constantly get feedback from the people in your circle confirming your elevated status?
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And to give a historical example, one which I really like is the great Roman generals used to have their supporting staff, men around them, whoever, family, that would whisper in their ears, remember that you're going to die. Remember
Yeah.
that you are just like flesh and blood.
Try to bring them down, humble them.
Yeah, because back in the day, you had to be a bit delusional to
That's
succeed.
That's the thing. So that
And we
overconfidence.
kept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kept it.
And I think it's dangerous because when you're overconfident and you start lying to yourself and then that thing is broken, you break down. Look at how Kanye West just lost his mind. His narcissism reached a point where it broke because
it's nuts.
there became a lot of cognitive dissonance where people are saying, listen, you're not the God that you think you are. He thinks he's a God. It broke him. Donald Trump thought he could stay president, thought that his road is like, he's going to change the world. He's not anymore. And he kind of lost it. And he's, I don't know how.
But the thing is, yeah, I like the point, and I can
that's why
see
it's
how
dangerous.
it goes bad.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's part of it that on your journey, when you believe in yourself to a certain extent, because we can't know the future, and when you're very ambitious, you need a bit of that healthy, like kind of you're a bit delusional because you're believing in your future self while not knowing how the outcome is going to be. So you kind of have to, I feel like it's a very thin line, or it's a very hard walk between keeping yourself in check. And that's why you need people to keep telling you that, take it easy, I feel. Because you know what I mean? Like you want to do something, you have to believe that you've done it without doing it for you to do it. So it's a very, very thin line where, and this is where they've gone, is that 1% makes you snap, like Kanye, like Trump.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's a good point to end it on as well, is that...
How do you find that balance, Hadi?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Like, where does it become where does it go from confidence to overconfidence? What is that line? Very blurry. We can let the people listening decide. Absolutely. But yeah, it's important not to be too overconfident, or it can like bite you. So I think this was a good discussion.
It was, yeah.
Really, really enjoyed it.
Likewise, yeah, of course. Really good deep diving, defining it, seeing, what makes confidence in our view, why people aren't confident, and how can it go wrong?
How can you build your confidence?
Yeah,
we explored some really, really interesting questions, I think. And stick around if you feel like you want to hear other interesting topics and what our takes are on them. And again, a bunch of what we said is opinion. Feel free to disagree with it,
and give us your own opinions.
We'd love to hear other opinions.
We'd like to get feedback and questions that could be part of future episodes. So yeah, down for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sami. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Tariq, as well.
Okay.
Welcome.